The 2024 Paralympic Games are in full swing, but with so many incredible athletes in different sports, you might be wondering, how are these athletes grouped for fair competition? Enter the world of Paralympic classification, a system designed to ensure a level playing field for all. Today, we're looking into Lexi, a one stop resource designed to unravel the mysteries of Paralympic classification. By simplifying complex concepts with clear visuals and color coded explanations, Lexi empowers viewers to understand why athletes compete within specific categories. Throughout this video, we'll review the website at lexi.global, exploring its functionalities and how it enhances the Paralympic viewing experience. So let's dig into the Lexi website and learn more about the classifications of the Paralympics and how they balance the challenge of different abilities. First, a unique feature of this website is that it uses a color coded system to explain the different parasports classifications of athletes based on their impairments. The classification system ensures fair competition and allows athletes to compete against others with similar levels of ability. Athletes are evaluated and grouped into classes based on affected movement, coordination, vision, and intellect. The Lexi website uses a stoplight color system to help spectators understand quickly the different impairment types. Areas of the model that are green indicate there is no impairment. Areas that are red represent a high degree of impairment, and those that are yellow and orange illustrate areas that are affected at a low or a moderate level of impairment. I was able to connect with Giles, the CEO and mastermind of Lexi, and I asked him a few questions about the system. Giles is a British Paralympic swimmer who has triumphed in multiple Paralympic Games, clinching gold medals and even setting a world record in the 100-meter butterfly at the Sydney 2000 Paralympics. I asked him what inspired him to create Lexi.
I was inspired to create Lexi at the Sydney 2000 Paralympic Games, where I was competing and I was swimming in the S8 class with one arm, and I was racing against a Danish guy who was swimming with two arms, and in butterfly to people that looked really confusing. But there was one race that really stood out, and it was a teammate of mine who was swimming in the 100 breaststroke, and he had hemiplegic cerebral palsy, so one side of his body didn't work great, and he's swimming against a guy from China who's got no arms, and they're doing the 100 meters breaststroke, and it was a really, really close race. But when it came down to it, the British swimmer managed to reach out with his hands and touch the wall, and the Chinese swimmer who came second had to touch the wall with his head. And everyone that was watching at home, they just couldn't understand why that was fair. That was the point at which I just thought, what we really need is we need a really quick way of being able to explain to people why it is that certain impairment types are placed together in certain sports, and also a way of being able to quickly move from sport to sport, not really get too hung up on all the sport coding numbers. And my dad growing up, he'd always said to me, if you've got a lot to say and not a lot of time, then you need a picture. And so that was how I first came up with the idea for Lexi.
Knowing we were going to be looking at the website together, I asked him what he thinks is the most important feature of the Lexi website.
So the most important feature, I think, of the Lexi website, aside from the way that the Lexi icons themselves are designed with their traffic light color schemes and how we try to make that as intuitive as possible, the key thing about the website is we've tried to make the navigation so that you can approach classification from any angle, that you can come in from the top and maybe you know the classification number and you want to find out what impairment types and why athletes are grouped in that particular class. You can approach it from the sport. You might know what impairment type you have and you want to find out what kind of sports and what classes you might potentially compete in. And so really we've tried to make it as easy as possible to traverse and move around the website from sport to sport, class to class, and find the information that you want really, really quickly.
Navigating the website is pretty easy. At the top of the page, click on the Classification tab and then select the All Sports Classification option. Here you'll find a list of the sports played at the Paralympics. At the time of this video, the summer sports are featured with the winter sports option being listed at the end. If you're watching this during the Winter Olympics, the page might look different with the winter sports being displayed. Either way, if you click on a sport, say canoe in this example, you'll go to a page that shows the classes considered for that sport. And if you click on one of the classes, a description is given both visually and in text for who would be competing in that class for that sport. In this example, we see two images indicating no limitations in the athlete's head, arms, or upper torso, but high impairment in the lower torso and legs. The description states that this class is for paddlers with highly affected movement in the trunk and legs, which is what the red indicates in the visual images. It goes on to explain how athletes may modify their movements and what their limitations might be. As we're looking at the website during the Paris 2024 Paralympics, the website has included a small image of the flag of France to indicate if that sport and class will be a competition class at the Paralympics this year. When you're exploring the website, you can scroll to the bottom of each sport or class page and find the full list of sports options. From athletics and swimming to wheelchair basketball and goalball, Lexi covers them all. Now let's look at the impairment to class option under the classification tab at the top of the page. This is a list of the different types of impairment an athlete might have, and you can look to see what sports options are available for an athlete to compete under. For example, if you or your child has short stature, you can click on this image of a shorter body with no other impairment shown. The next page gives a list of the sports and classes open to someone with short stature. And if we click on one of the sports, we can get more details about the class to determine which would be best for you or your child. On some class pages, you'll find multiple types of impairments will qualify for the same class, such as the swimming class S6 for those with short stature. It's also a class for swimmers with coordination moderately affected on one side, highly affected in the lower trunk and legs, or the absence of limbs. All of these swimmers have difficulty holding good body position or swimming straight through the water, and they would be able to compete with each other at a similar skill level. Please note that Lexi is a guide to classification, but it is not intended to classify an athlete. That has to be done by a qualified classifier. I was curious how the website is being used and asked Giles if he could tell us about it.
Around the Paralympic Games, so certainly right about now, we start pulling some really heavy traffic on the website from sports fans around the world, really wanting to try and keep up with what they're seeing on TV and trying to work out what they're watching. But other than sports fans, we support sports with their educational programs, various sports clubs, sports bodies. A lot of coaches use our website to work out where their athletes would sit in various classes. And then, of course, also young kids who maybe have a disability, an impairment type, and they want to get into sport, but they don't know where they would sit within that sport. They don't know how they would go on to compete and what level they could take that competition to. So we really try to make sure that we're a broad church.
And what does the future look like for Lexi? Giles has a clear vision for the future.
In the future, where we really want to take Lexi is to attract a sponsor so that we can begin providing this data to sports organizations, sports clubs, either for free or for as little cost as possible, so that we can start pushing that around. If you are that sponsor, then please get in touch with us, because we'd certainly like to be supplying information around the world as freely as possible. We want to increase the participation of athletes in parasport and get people engaged with it more. So specific goals, well, we just hope to make Lexi really the standard language by which people talk about the basics of classification in parasport.
Thanks to Giles Long and the Lexi website, you can now witness the Paralympic Games with a deeper understanding and appreciate the incredible feats of these remarkable athletes. So head over to lexi.global, explore the website, and embark on your Paralympic journey. And don't forget to like and subscribe the channel, and let me know, what's your favorite Paralympic sport?